It's a relaxed atmosphere.
Do you have that kind of comfortable silences on the radio?
Finally, yeah.
That's
but when we first started radio, it was like, someone talk. But now you just kind of let the moment just be for a second, I guess. I don't know.
Let it sink in. Cool. Especially when a joke bombs. We like letting the person have to sit there and just suck it up, eat their balls.
Well, Jimmy brought that to the radio show. Back in the day when Ant and I were doing it and we would bomb on something, there was a panic. You would feel uncomfortable. You would heat up. And the other guy would try to cover for the other one, right? Jimmy was the one that brought it to the show like, hey, let's just stop the show and enjoy that
Point
bomb.
out the bomb.
Yeah, there's nothing better than someone just bombing on a joke.
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's just awful. Yeah.
Comedians are the worst because they love going to clubs and watching other comics just eat their balls.
There's nothing better than sitting in the back of the club. I've watched my friends just suffer, and you know they're pulling every fucking trick out of the bag, and they're just up there
just
dying,
flailing. Yeah.
There's nothing more wonderful.
Yeah, we
than
have
watching
shows
your
like
friends.
that too. Yeah. I'm familiar with that.
Well, I know from being in a couple of bands, you never want to see the guy that replaced you playing with your band.
Yeah.
You don't want to watch that. You want to see him fuck up or sound like shit.
I was talking earlier about this with someone. I went to a Guns N' Roses show in Vegas just to go see what that was all about. You know,
Wow.
so I'd never stood in front of Guns N' Roses but I wasn't allowed in. So
get out of here.
I've never seen it. Yeah.
They wouldn't let you in?
They wouldn't let me in.
Well, you gotta get a disguise.
Well, I didn't know that was going to happen. You know?
You gotta get a disguise. I think
They wouldn't let you in.
Yeah.
Wow.
What did they say to you? You can't. You can't.
I think it was the manager at the time, and he just said, you know, what happened was I called up one guy, one of the promoters, and said, can you get me tickets into the gig? And that was the same night as the show. I flew from L.A. to Las Vegas, got to the Hard Rock, and everybody in the building knew I was coming. It was like this big thing. And so I got to the room and was getting ready to go down there with my wife and everything. And the security came to my room, knocked on the door, and says, no, we can't let you out.
Yeah.
Either stay here or leave the building.
You know what it was? They probably didn't want you to overshadow the guitarist.
No, I think they thought
That'd be a
that if
distraction.
Axl was aware that I was in there, it would intimidate his performance.
Oh, really?
Wow, man.
It seems to me, I never met the guy in my life, but it seems to me like he was afraid, like Carly Simon. A lot of people have that performance fear, and they have a terror.
I think he's a real perfectionist, and he's especially like putting out this record that he's a little bit worried about.
How it's going to be perceived.
Yeah. He wants it to be amazing and have everybody perceive it as such, and he's a little intimidated by his own success.
You know what's interesting about that, going back to the book, but I can't believe, I'm amazed at how easy a lot of these classic Guns N' Roses songs came about.
Yeah.
Because you would think, especially because you do read about Axl being this perfectionist, supposedly, like some of these great songs that we all know and love, like were made in hours.
Yeah, well, I mean,
hours. You came up with a riff and someone comes in the room like, hey, keep playing that, and then all of a sudden
You assume it's like
they fucked around with the lyrics a little bit.
Grinding
like,
it
that's
out.
all
that's
all
true. It would happen in a few hours, you know, in an evening, you know, basically. But I think that was just the chemistry of those particular five guys just having a good time together, and it just happened.
Like Sweet Child O' Mine, I'll give you an example. You can't come up with a riff, and they figure something out, and then they're stuck, and Axl just to himself, is this really true? And he's just saying to himself, where do we go? Where do we go now? Where do we go? Like, he's trying to figure out vocally where to go with this song, and someone goes, just say that.
There was,
and it was that simple?
There was a producer that we were working with, and it was something like that. That was how I remembered it. It was, we got to a certain section in the song,
and you all were
it was
just
like, where
stuck.
do we go? And someone was like, hey, that's it, and we'll just do that.
Yeah, where do we go now? But
cool.
It really was just, where do we go
I
now?
believe in spontaneity in rock and roll. I think that you have to. I'm a perfectionist to an extent as well. Nobody beats me up more than myself about guitar playing and all that kind of shit. But you have to go with the vibe of you know, like you can't sit and think about it too much. You have to just sort of let it happen and see what comes out at the end of the day.
Creativity is
can't analyze it.
Creativity is so weird because sometimes, I mean, you know, doing a radio show, like sometimes it comes like, it's so easy, like, wow, you're just sitting back and it's happening. And then other times, as a creative person, you're struggling, like, God, how do we get something going here?
Yeah, when
it's
you hit
so weird, but sometimes you just hit that groove and you go.
Yeah, when you hit that moment where all of a sudden you can't seem to come up with anything and you start trying, and then it just gets worse. It's just like quicksand. And that's the worst feeling for a creative person. You know? But it does, you know, it happens.
But you feel lazy when it's not happening. You're like, I'm a bum. I'm not doing anything creative.
Totally.
I'm just fucking off. But it kind of has to be. It has to inspire you on some level, just to. Oh, okay, here it is.
Yeah,
it moves.
When it does happen, you're like, that's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think anything beats that.
How close were you to joining Poison back in the day? That made me laugh in the bar.
Yeah, I know. It was. I don't know what happened. Was their first guitar player, this guy named Matt, called me up and said that he was going back to Pennsylvania to I guess his girlfriend was pregnant. He was going to get married and all that, and I should hook up with Poison. I was out in L.A. just looking for a gig, always just wandering from group to group and just picking up where I could and trying to get exposure and all that kind of stuff. And Poison was by far the biggest club band at that time, and says, you should go try out for Poison, you know. And I was like, yeah, there's an image thing that was a real contrast.
A little bit of a problem.
Yeah, and so, but I went down to their rehearsal place in L.A. and they gave me a tape of like 4 or 5 songs, and I learned those songs and came back the next day and played them with the band and kicked the shit out of them. It's like, you know, and so they were pretty much stunned by that, you know, because I don't think Matt was really what you consider a great guitar player, but I had a good feel, you know. So they had me come down another day and I played, and then we had this long conversation about fashion, and that's when it really, you know, the obvious became really even more apparent.
I just imagine after you ripped up the audition and killed, that the next step was they handed you mascara and you went, whoa.
Well, yeah, it really the basis for the sort of fashion discrepancy was they asked me about my shoes, like what kind of shoes are you going to wear, and I was wearing some, you know, what I considered cool beat up moccasins, and I was like, what's the issue with the shoes? And then I think we went on to like, well, what kind of outfit, and they sort of knew that they were getting nowhere with it. And so when I was leaving that day, though, Cece was walking in, and that was the classic part of the whole thing. Was I was walking out and Cece was walking in. We didn't know each other, but he was like dolled up in like light blue and white and blonde teased hair, and that was an audition. I guess it was sort of a dress rehearsal to him, and I just said, that's the guy.
Yeah, enjoy the gig,
and
dude.
I got the phone call saying that's not going to work out, we're going to use CC, and I was like, all things considered, it was sort of a relief, you know. And I moved on to do some other stuff, and consequently Guns N' Roses started, and then we became sort of like, you know, sort of pseudo rival bands in LA, because we hated them and they didn't necessarily hate us, but we had such a bad attitude they couldn't help it. They had to hate us because we hated them so much. And that's the way it went.
How do you feel if you're Poison, though, and you're blue getting slashed over shoes? Fucking idiots.
Yeah, well,
that was the scene back then. Everyone was wearing the makeup.
No, you know, but CC is so perfect for that band. He couldn't have been anybody else. It was a match made in heaven for them.
And there was a moment Guns N' Roses like slightly went that way with glam, and then said, you know what, we don't need to do this.
Well, there was we came from sort of the Hanoi Rocks, New York Dolls, kind of, you know, like early Rolling Stones kind of mentality. The glam thing in LA was more like trying to put together like a mixture of Kiss and T-Rex or something. It was very glam. David Bowie, all that. We were sort of like a gutter glam. And so we had that look, but we sort of, you know, got sort of tired of having to make the effort to do it. It wasn't something that we really tried real hard. It wasn't like an image that we were concocting. You know what I mean? That was sort of what we wore at the time, and it just started to fall off and just become jeans and T-shirts.
It's definitely a refreshing change from a lot of the hair band stuff that was going on at the time. You guys came out and people were just like, it was a kick in the ass, like, holy shit. Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. It was definitely a good time. I think Motley Crue was the first glam band that came out of like serious glam band, and that was a real image for them, and I think everybody else was sort of following that.
They kind of,
A lot of everybody was just trying to look like a bunch of fags. Right?
that's what it boiled down to. It was like, what the fuck are these guys doing, man?
You played on a... I'm sorry.
No, it's just with the big teased out hair and even the choreography and the videos.
Remember bands like
are
White
you guys
Lion?
fucking each other? What are you doing? yeah, White Lion.
Right.
You played on I Ain't No Nice Guy.
Yeah,
with Ozzy and Lemmy. It's one of my favorite. That's unheralded songs.
That is a great song, and Lemmy wrote it. Lemmy's a great song.
Yeah, he's brilliant.
I was really proud to play on that song. I still actually have the lyrics from the original when he first gave them to me, and in my acoustic guitar case. You know, because it's a great lyrics. It really says a lot about a lot of us. You know.
Yeah. It's really great, and it sounded almost like when he did it. Because I've asked Lemmy's manager. I wanted to hear a version with just Lemmy singing. I'm an Ozzy fanatic, but it sounded like they were in different studios when they
the original
sang.
version with just Lemmy singing the whole thing, I have to admit, is better.
Yeah.
It's more personal.
Yeah, there's a live version.
I
on
actually
YouTube.
might go back and cover that song one day.
Oh, it's great, dude.